This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. So honored for you guys to be joining us, whether you're watching us live or catching the replay or listening on any of our podcasting platforms. Just really excited for you guys to be part of it. This is actually episode, I think, 690, 692, something like that. Whereas we get closer to the 700 episode mark, just wanted to throw out and say thank you again for listening. But really excited for our special guest. I was honored to be a guest on her podcast a few weeks ago. And we are really excited. I think you're going to love what she has to say, especially for those of you guys and gals out there that are looking at and transitioning or really looking to do something big here in 2022. She is the corporate communications and marketing leader with over 18 years of experience in business-to-business financial services, fintech, law, and technology. She's an expertise that includes leadership strategies, publishing, training, and education. So she's ideally here to be on the Note Closer Show podcast. She's designed and implemented successful communication strategies, drawing from a background of marketing, SEO, strategic event planning, journalism, public relations, training, and education. So we're honored to have the amazing Alejandra Slatapolsky join us here from sunny Hollywood, Florida today. What is going on, Alejandra? How are you doing today?
I'm really good. How about you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great. It's nice. Happy New Year to you. I think we spoke last was right before the end of 2021. How's the new year treating you so far?
It's been great. It's a little crazy, honestly. Everybody just decided to power up and get things done. So we are trying to catching up, and yeah, honestly, right, through holidays, we had COVID at home. Like I was knocked out too. So now I'm like back to full energy into 2022 and ready to get it.
Yeah, COVID will knock you on your butt for sure. Well, we're glad you're back healthy again and rock and rolling there for you. You work with a variety of different businesses, and especially on, like I said, on the financial side. And in researching some of your articles, obviously the last 18 to 24 months has been very interesting, we'll just say, on the funding raising and rollout strategy, I guess. So what are you seeing kind of what's working in this crazy, chaotic world these days for companies or funds in raising capital these days?
Honestly, since the pandemic started, all I could think on all I've seen is every single trend that we've seen coming, it has just accelerated. So on that note, actually, single thing that used to be true is now truer, I think. So in terms of what works and what doesn't, I'm in touch with a ton of entrepreneurs, a ton of startups, a ton of people looking for transitions. And what I always say is something that a close friend of mine told me many years ago. That he's a financial, he used to be a trader. Now he's an entrepreneur too. But he said the best way to invest is to only invest in what you understand. And I remember that all the time. And I have that in mind whatever decision I need to make. And whenever I talk to anybody, like I remember he told me this story. He's like, a friend of mine came, he's a lawyer, and he told me, I want to invest in this sushi restaurant. I was like, why would you do that? What do you know about sushi? Like, it's right. So actually with blockchain, NFTs, crypto, everything that has been thrown our way and has accelerated, and it has become the latest shining piece of investment that comes your way, you just have to be careful in that way. I mean, I think, the only thing to read the markets is go and buy whatever you're convinced and whatever you see that you can understand and stand behind it.
That makes a lot of sense. You talking about that, I'm reminded of there's a story out recently about how the wide receiver Odell Beckham from the LA Rams took his salary, $750,000 base salary for the year, and had it invested all of it into crypto. And as we said now, he's yielding basically 35,000 because of the big drop off on that. Not saying that he was an expert. We've seen, that doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. Things obviously rebound, but you're exactly right. You really got to know what's going on in the market. And as we say, investing, a lot of times it's investing. It's not a guarantee things are going to go up or stay the same. You can often get hit if you don't understand the trends. I mean, invest in a sushi restaurant. I love that because I love sushi, but it doesn't mean I'm a restaurateur or know the cost with all the fresh fish you got to keep. Right?
And with whatever you feel comfortable. Honestly, like yesterday I was talking to my partner and she tells me my 16-year-old grabbed $60 of his savings and put it into an NFT that he liked, and now he sold it for 5,000. And I'm like, what? Get me that kid. But at the same time, he got lucky. That's the reality of it. He may know some about it and he liked it, but he got lucky and he cannot get cocky about it, right? You cannot say, oh, because I got this one, I'm going to get all the next ones too. So I think it's just putting your head down and studying whatever you're interested in and then doing it and standing behind your beliefs. And that's the only way also that you're going to be okay with losing the money too. Because if you stand behind your beliefs, you're like, okay, I thought I was doing the right thing. But if you're following somebody else or you're following a fad, then it's going to be that much harder on you too.
Yeah, we've seen that definitely in the real estate markets for sure, as values keep increasing. I know you've seen it down in your neck of the woods. We see it here in Austin with 43% appreciation. And it's just crazy. And people are like, oh yeah, it's gonna keep going up. It's gonna keep going up. At some point, it's got to change. And we're already starting to see a lot of the markets kind of either flatten out or grow a little stale, where obviously the first sign is days on market increasing or foreclosures starting to increase as people have overpaid for assets, and as values drop or costs drop there. You've got to know what's going on in the market. And if you're at the top of the market, it's not always the best time to invest.
Well, I'm very much about psychology too. So I see a lot of specialists that focus only on numbers, right? So you find the stats, you find the trends, and you think you found the holy grail. But the same, I apply these because I've learned a ton about communications. That's my background. And in communications, the key is, okay, I have to be able to empathize, and I have to be able to see where you are coming from and what your thought process is, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about somebody investing in real estate, I think, okay, yes, I'm sure you have all the stats studied and you have all the market studies, etc. But have you really thought about the demographic and that the type of people that are living in that place and what's happening? So when you mention my neighborhood, I'll tell you, look, yeah, it's great personally. So my example, I say, yeah, it's great that my home is, I don't know how much, 20-30% more valuable. But then I think, okay, let's sell it, right? I'm going to make a profit. And then I look at my husband and I'm like, where are we going to live? Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not going to go live in the middle of the countryside because I'm not interested in that. So I grab that and I see my neighbors and I say, most of them go through the same thought process. And a lot of investors lose sight of that because they stay only on the paper and they don't see the market and the psychology behind the market. That's my thought process because of the communication side, because I always look for ways to, okay, how do you engage and what is your target audience thinking about?
I love that, but you're 100% right. You've got to, and we've seen obviously over the last few years a big communication breakdown in different groups or people of different opinions. A lot of times, whether it's political or COVID or religion, people are unwilling to listen or empathize with the other side of the argument in a lot of cases. When you're working with your clients that are reaching out in communication, what are you seeing some of the biggest mistakes that either businesses are making or people are making in how they communicate? Lack of, obviously, is probably the first thing, but the failure to kind of think about the opposite side of where that investors or where that person's coming from, or what do you see?
Well, mostly is, I think we spoke about this with you. I love the businesses that do the best and they're most profitable are the ones that find a niche. That's why when I saw your show, I was like, yeah, notes closers. You're focusing on notes, and people will follow you, and people will understand where you're coming from, and will follow your beliefs because they are your tribe. So the businesses that do the well right now are the ones that really find their tribe. And I have this conversation every single day, at least twice a day, that it's about, okay, you have to find your niche. And the other day asked me, okay, I found my niche, what now would I do? You make it smaller. So the smaller your niche, the better chance of success. And most entrepreneurs find that very, very frightening. I did it myself. I made the same mistake. At first I started to say, okay, I'm going to just do marketing for everybody who wants some marketing. And it was too broad. Once I focused on what my background was, that was only finance, it was that much easier. Conversations would flow and people would understand where I was coming from. I understood the market, so they were much more comfortable talking to me. They didn't have to explain that much to me, so everything just flows, right? The same with any product. You want to go with a niche audience always. Like it's those, I don't know, if it's retail, you have the California brands that have like the lifestyle for Californians, right? And then you have whatever it is, find that and make it smaller. And that's what most businesses lose sight of.
Yeah, I agree. You can't be all to everybody. And unfortunately, I think in today's world of marketing, we judge our success by the number of followers or the subscribers or the bigger the email is, the better a lot of times. And that doesn't necessarily mean everybody's reading your email or following you on Instagram, or if they are, it's not your ideal client. I had a guy reach out to me a while back and says, we can take your Instagram from where it's at to 100,000 followers. I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean I don't need 21-year-old girls over in the Philippines. They're not my ideal client. My ideal client isn't on that platform for the most part. And it's publicity. I'm like, yeah, but it's falling really on my message. Communication is falling on deaf ears if it's not the right niche for me, right?
Exactly. And if your right followers are not following you, they're not going to be interacting with you, and the message is not going to be important. And there are a ton of different strategies, but I completely agree with that. I keep telling my clients, when we do some podcasting or when we do some webinars or we do some messaging for social media or for email marketing, I always say I prefer to have a small number of the right people than a big number of just random contacts. And they at first they are taken aback. They're like, oh my God, I only have these many emails. I'm like, don't worry, there are people that know you. The campaign is going to be that much more successful and it's going to grow organically. I prefer the organic growth and the niche marketing. Like if you're talking about, paid advertising, whenever you're doing ads, also, I make very small niches with very specific messages because those are the best leads. And I don't need to throw money at getting leads that I like, followers that I don't need.
Right. And you've probably dealt a lot with that, especially with the algorithms changing over especially the last 12, 24 months with Facebook and Facebook advertising. And most people, they look, I was talking to somebody the other day about that. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm a large audience and they're having to pay more to advertise. And I said, well, why don't you niche down your audience, niche it down a couple other demographics, and it'll be a smaller list for you, but you'll probably be a lot more successful. And yeah, they're like, oh, I didn't think it would be, but we actually, we compared, did A/B testing, and the one campaign did this number. Well, the smaller campaign actually did more because we were talking their talk and really hitting that nail on the head with the right audience.
Exactly. And it's, you're going to have a higher cost of acquisition per lead, but the lead is going to be that better, like much better quality. That's, I used to have and also we do work, and delving into something else, but you made me think of that. For me, it's pretty important what you're doing with your clients once they come in, right? The customer journey is key. Whatever you're doing, the client experience. I used to have a hedge fund as a client, and hedge funds have a pretty good margin. Of course, they're pretty profitable in general, and they were paying. We started a Google AdWords, or I don't remember if it was a Google or a social media. It doesn't matter, but they were paying a fortune per lead, and it worked for them, right? Because that lead, it would be a lifetime value of 20x for sure,
right?
A minimum, right? However, once we got to 300-400 leads, they couldn't take care of them. They could not nurture, they could not onboard, they could not make sure they converted. So yes, in marketing, most people always talk about lead acquisition. And with, a little smarter campaign here or there, you'll get leads. But the health of your company I'm convinced, is going to be determined by the health of your client experience.
Mm-hmm.
And how you're doing that, because that's going to create a much more profitable relationship with your client, and it's going to create referrals and long-term value and relationship that's going to be that much more valuable. So I always tell my clients, do anything that it's typical that people come to me and say, I want, a digital campaign, get me, I want to set up Google AdWords or whatever. I'm like, okay, get that budget, cut it in half, and do that for ads. And then the rest of the budget, use it to improve your customer journey. Because that's going to build the long-term value of a company much more than whatever lead generation acquisition you can do.
Well, and it also leads to the fact is it's always easier to serve your existing client versus going out and finding new clients. If you can serve them, they're going to be repeat clients. As you say, lifetime value 20, 30x. I think what the average lead in the financial industry is people will pay $50 or more for a lead in the financial industry. And then because there is the value to it, whether it's funding deals or raising capital, buying real estate, it all depends on your niche with aspect of it. So yeah, that's a really great tidbit there. I love that nugget. Taking what you're putting to have it, cut it in half, and the other half into that experience after they opt in. The hello call or the hello video, or helping to introduce them to the culture, helping tell them exactly where they need to go, because people need to be pointed. What's the next step a lot of times? And a confused mind is, as we all know, is a mind that says no or doesn't buy anything, correct?
Don't even get me started with the onboarding processes. Like, oh my God, in wealth management still, oh. So yeah, but also, there is the acquisition, and then you have the conversion, and also there is a lot of drops there. There is a lot of work that I'm sure all businesses can do to improve conversion, because you already got the lead, but then you don't convert them. So you just have to figure out where the biggest drop is and work from there, prioritize and start working from there. There is a drop in referrals for sure. There is a drop in the onboarding process, with technology companies, fintechs, or our financial services companies. The consumer is that much more impatient. I think the average time to drop on an onboarding process is less than 4 minutes.
Wow.
So Yeah. So if you're creating an account, it takes more than 3 to 4 minutes, you drop. And then I think that's 80, no, it was 70% drop at 6 minutes.
Wow. Or people just stop filling out the forms and move on to something else. I could echo that. I would say that's anything longer. That's a great point. There's a fund in our new, I guess you could say, trader on the block of distressed notes, and they have this long onboarding process. Not besides just sign an NDA. Now they've got this website that you got to fill out 35 questions. I'm like, forget it. I'm not even going to fill it out. And they keep, well, finish. I'm like, not. You're asking questions that you don't need to know. That I've already signed your non-disclosure. Send me the list, and then if I need to buy something, I'll go from there. But you're not adding any value on the front end, right?
Exactly. And it's just, you want to make sure unfortunately, every single service right now, it's compared psychologically to any like social media app. How easy it is for you to open an account on social media, right? It's less than 2 minutes. So unconsciously, you're expecting that experience. Every single consumer is expecting that. So they're going to be a little more patient with you because you're managing their money. Yes, but not that much. And also, our generation and the younger ones are also much more conscious about privacy issues. And they're going to be like, are you sure you need to ask this? Why are you asking this much, right? So there is a ton that you can do. Like, for example, well, unfortunately, a lot of software companies get away with the terms and conditions and nobody reads.
Right.
But in terms of the experience itself, you can definitely put money into that, and it's going to be it's well spent in terms of between that and ad buying. And that's like even against my business, but I think that's that's the way I think. And it's
well, I think the trends prove that. And there's a lot of things that you can do to improve the onboarding experience or your client's experience. You wrote an article about trying to going through the headaches of refinancing a house, how you would reach out to mortgage brokers and they'd ask the same exact thing, and then you never hear from them after a couple of days. And then you also mentioned how impressed you were with what Quicken Loans was doing with the personalized video and what they were doing step by step for you. You want to talk a little bit about how that is and how people can apply something like that in their business?
That was part of my inspiration also to work much more on customer journeys. Quicken Loans, what they did was, basically what happened was, I was looking for a mortgage, and then here in Miami, I kept getting referrals from friends, and they would just send me the contact of a person, and that person would say, yeah, just send me all the information via email. And, I'm pretty conscious and I'm already about my privacy. And I was like, really, I'm going to send all my financial information, all of my life to you just via email? But okay, I'll do it. It was my first time applying for a mortgage, so I didn't know that much. And I go through 1, 2, 3 people. They just take days to get back to me. I was like, okay, I'm tired of this. And I Googled, and I landed on Quicken Loans. In Quicken Loans, they made you open an online account, and the system tells you, okay, these are the steps. This is what you can expect, right? So upload here, their documentation is protected by ABC. And then what really impressed me was that first, throughout the whole process, every single step of the way, they would give me a call. Hey, you uploaded these documents. The next step is this one. Do you understand everything you're doing? Do you have any questions? Is everything okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, let's go. Okay, the next step is going to be da-da-da. And another call. Okay, you uploaded these documents so that this is what we're doing. So it was the mix and the integration between the use of the technology and the human factor that really impressed me. And then after that, every year, whenever my mortgage would suffer modifications because of the, I don't remember what it was. I think it was the tax. Yeah, the taxes from the city, etc. They would send a personalized email with my exact name and numbers, on the video explaining where the changes are coming from. And I was like, oh my God, this is a holy grail. I love them. So that inspired a lot. And that's a company that, what happened? I keep referring them because I'm impressed with the customer journey. And I have a couple of other products. I don't refer that much, honestly. I have just a couple of other products that I'm referring. Oh, another one. Now, well, actually related to my home again. I wanted to decorate, and I'm horrible decorating, honestly. I looked online, and there's this app that that does the decoration for you. I'm like, okay. I check it out. They actually do a consultation with a person, an actual designer that works on your house. So you scan, it's an amazing app that you scan your house and it does automatically the rendering. And then the designer talks to you and she's like, okay, what did you like? Well, I like this, that, and you have kids. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then they do the rendering on the app. You have every single piece of furniture on the app. You click and you buy it. And I was so impressed because it's like, great. And then I can chat with the designer and ask her for another call if I have questions. So I have that integration. That integration made me that also, like, I think 5 other friends have used it already because I recommend it. So that company, I see it online. They're not paying that much for advertising. I've seen it. They don't. They're living off of referrals. I can, they're not my clients, so I cannot talk about it. Like I don't actually know it, but I know because I searched and I don't see advertising by them. So I think that there's a ton to say from that only. And I've been working with my clients on that too, and it's working. I have a fintech that we also worked, deeply into the customer journey, and it has 20% improvement in the drop-off rate on the onboarding. We still have a long way to go, but at least it's improving. And I really think that's the way to go.
When you talk about an increase in onboarding, do you see success with a number of specific touch points in a day, a week, a month? When people should be talking, and then after a month, it should be something regular, or you've seen a lot of your clients asking their clients, hey, how often do you want us to communicate with you? Weekly, daily, monthly, once a year? What are you seeing as being successful as far as that touch basis?
Well, it really depends on the business and what the need is, right? So you can't standardize that. If we are talking about, I don't know, an accountant, well, you expect to know from them when tax season is approaching and whenever a new law comes out and some opportunities there, but you don't want to hear from them every week or every couple of weeks because you may not have a need. If you're talking about a more retail product, you may have the opportunity to be more in touch. So it really depends on the product. And yes, I would really, try to go with whatever the customer is telling you. I have also, there are law firms that I work with that actually the client tells me, don't email me. I don't need to know. I'm fine. I don't need, and it took me a while to say, hey, really, why not emailing clients? I keep telling the team. And they're like, they don't want to. They know they're fine. I'm like, okay, then are you having calls? Yeah, that's what we are doing. Once every quarter, we have a consulting call. Perfect. That works. So it really depends on what your firm, but it's actually, I think that most entrepreneurs will know in their, in their guts, how much their clients want to hear from them, and just make sure you're giving them valuable content, something that they can use. That's the only way to go, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are just yelling at people, marketing wise, yelling versus actually listening to their client base or looking at the questions asked, and then evolving those questions into solutions or content to help answer those questions. Because if you're getting a question from one client, it's probably being asked. You get it a second time, it's definitely somebody's hot button with your clients in a lot of cases that you have to focus on, right?
Yeah, completely. I completely agree. And it has to be an answer to a question. Try always to go to answer to questions or to relate to their situation. There's a coach that I hired a long time ago that he's amazing at writing emails. And I hired him just because of his emails, I'm going to be honest. He was really good because he would, he's a coach for agency owners. And that I love too. He has a niche. And then he started writing and saying, I know what you're going through. I know this is difficult in an agency. I know how this, and when I read it, I could see that he understood my business and he had been in my position so that he could help me. So I think that's key too. You have to try to empathize and see what value can you add and just write it out.
Mm-hmm. And we all know that sales are really 80% of sales are really made up of the fifth, sixth, or seventh contact in a lot of cases. What are some of those things that you're working with your clients to say, hey, you got to realize it takes time to build that. People have to see what you're offering up multiple times or see the content. How important is that in building I guess you could say the pre-client journey or the pre-client interested for getting that conversion, whether they're going to invest with you or buy your product?
Yeah, actually, that would be the phase 2, because if you're in touch with them, they're already a lead, right? So that for me is a conversion process. How do you convince them to actually engage with you, right? You have them in your database. How do you convince them to engage with you? So yes, it depends. I think it has varied between industries, but between retail and B2B, the amount of contacts that you need or touch points, it's different. Again, for example, if it's via email, it really depends on what we're doing. But if it's via email, try to really give them some content of value that they can use in their day-to-day, some little snippet or whatever you can think of that works for them. We've been doing campaigns in which we explain processes. For example, we have a fintech that is really good actually at providing onboarding processes and provides onboarding processes for our fintech. So we show them, hey, you should know how an onboarding process should look like, and we give them some information. And then the next time we hold a webinar, and in the webinar we explain that, and we don't sell. The key is just don't try to push products down their throat. You have to earn their trust first, especially in financial services. So you have to show them, the path, your capabilities, your product, and earn their trust, and they're going to engage with you. So, and also have a net, like have your niche, but the net has to be wide enough so that there is always a time frame in which your target is going to need your product. And many, many, many times you reach a target that is the right one, but it's not the right time. And we are so bombarded by media and by content and the amount of information that we receive, that the chances of them getting 1 or 2 pieces of information from you and needing your product in a month or 2 and remembering you are slim. Mm-hmm. That's why we do a constant flow of content, because that way, whenever they need you, they'll remember you. But remembering, something that you sent them 2 months ago, like think about it yourself. Like, I don't remember every single vendor that talks to me, right? But when I have to look up for it, sometimes I make notes if I'm really interested in that one. But if not, you'll just delete it. And when you need it, you're going to go search for it, right? So it's a balance of both. And whenever they're searching, you have to make sure you show up, of course.
Right. The whole proverbial no now actually means just not now. You have the opportunity to wow them with your relationship, your content, and people can. I think people can smell somebody who's trying to just cram product down, who's more interested in the sale than the relationship. And that's really what we're all about and have to be about in this new world economy, is building relationships, just not selling digits, right?
Exactly. That's a conversation I have every day with clients too. I'm like, we're producing this content, and they're like, you're not mentioning my product. No, I'm not. I'm doing it on purpose, right? You can mention your product once in a while. It's like with the balance of content creation for social media. That's
Right.
always that's a very common question. How much content do I do that is just content, and how much do I do that is selling my product? And I like the balance of maybe like 6-1 or 7-1 at least, because if not, people are not going to follow you either.
Right. Well, that's a great point there. I mean, I think one of the most well-known books when it comes to marketing, I guess you could say, is Gary Vaynerchuk's Jab, 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 Right Hook, where it's 3 pieces of content and giving versus the ask. And that varies, obviously, depending on the more expensive the buying decision is, or the more cost to it, or the relationship is, the more you got to put into the front end to make that conversion. Then that's the first step in a long step of keeping that client happy and your bottom line doing well with your repeat clients.
And the less impulsive also, like you have to consider how impulsive your purchase decision can be. A lot of financial products are not impulsive at all. So it's gonna take a long time for them to make the move. So that's something that you should consider, and that's part of your business. Yeah, it has to be part of your business plan.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not part of it, like the other day I was talking to somebody who told me, I want to start working with you. I want you to get me investors within 15 days. I was like, no, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. There's no way. And he was just launching his product. No, sorry, not the guy for you.
Yeah.
The gal, I'm sorry, I'm not the gal for you.
Yeah, the gal. We're not the company for you on that. But that's right. And I'm so glad you. So with us, with our audience listening here today, we get a lot of people that are still working their full-time jobs. They want to become a full-time investor. They're looking to raise capital. And one of the things we've done, like, listen, you've got to start communicating and adding value to your database, whether it's one person or 1,000 people. You've got to start a communication process on at least once a week, initially adding value with a video or inviting them to an event, or just starting that conversation to get the word out so they think about you when they think about investing. It's always frustrating because we see with our annual event, Note Camp, that we do, we're always asking, hey, how often are you sending emails out to your database? And it's literally less than 10% send something out at least once a week, just touching base with their audience. And what's more disturbing, Alejandra, is 50% never send anything out to their database. They're not doing any marketing. That's why I'm like, well, that's why you're not raising any capital or closing any deals, because nobody knows that you exist out there, right?
That's not acceptable. Actually, whenever most people that are working for corporations, they are convinced they don't need a thought leadership strategy. And I have to argue against that. Doesn't matter what your position is, your personal brand is still it is a brand. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you are online. And whenever you're online, the perception is built by what you post, by what you do or don't do. Because if I go online and you don't have a profile, it's like, what year do you live in? Doesn't work. So if you want to make that transition, the first thing you need to work on is on your online profile, on your personal brand. Sometimes it's hard, if you're in a large corporation, I'm sure you have limitations there. So yeah, they may be able to email people or they may not. So if they're not able to maybe say openly that they are, crowdfunding or that they are open for investors, then do one-on-one communications. Make sure you touch base with key people that at least. I remember many years ago, 10 years ago, the way I started my business was just, I went to my, literally, I swear to God, I went to my LinkedIn and started one by one saying, should I speak to this guy? Yes. Done. Hey, how are you? How have you been? I would be great to grab coffee together. I wanted to tell you what I'm up to. And that's it. One by one. So if you don't have time to do that, because I'm sure you won't, because you're working for another organization, put yourself a goal. Let's say, I'm gonna, 3 meetings a week. I'm gonna book 3 meetings a week for 2-3 months. That's gonna build your network. I swear to God, it's gonna do it. You just have to make sure that you're just emailing people and doing it in a one-on-one. That's a one-on-one strategy. If you are open and in your current organization, you can actually work on your profile. That's the thing to do. You have to work on your profile. So let's say you're, I don't know, a portfolio manager in some organization. You can definitely work per profile with general information. You don't have to do investment advice, because that's what a lot of people say. Oh, I cannot give investment advice openly because compliance will kill me. Yes, I know, but you can talk about the markets. You cannot say where the market's going to go, but you can still say what you think about what's going on. You can still say, you can still teach things to people because you have your knowledge and you can still teach that. That's not selling, that's just teaching.
Right.
So
I love it. I love it. We could sit here and talk strategies all day with it because we have that same type of mindset there for you, Alejandra. But I know your time is valuable there for you. What's the best way for our listeners and our audience to follow up with you or follow you or see some more of your amazing content or your strategies out there that you're sharing out there? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, I'm not going to preach what I didn't do. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's where, LinkedIn or Twitter. My name is the only one there. You're not going to find another Alejandra Slatapolsky, so that's easy. Actually, in the world, that I know.
You are you exactly the only person on LinkedIn like that. I was like, because I was doing research, like, oh, that's easy. She's the only one on there. It's a beautiful last name. What's the heritage of the last name?
Polish.
Polish. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Polish. That's a beautiful.
Yeah, it is a Polish. I'm half Polish, half Turkish, and raised in Argentina, actually.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Alejandra, thank you so much for coming on. We look forward to continue the relationship, continue the conversation at another later date. And thank you so much for coming on the Note Closure and just sharing so much value and nuggets and great thoughts and content today on the Note Closure Show.
No, thank you, Scott. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, guys, hey, listen to what Alejandra had to say there. There's things you can do. I love her little one-on-one LinkedIn strategy. If you're working for a job right now and doing that little bit each day goes a long way. 3 meetings a week, doing that for 2-3 months, you'll have 60 to 90 connections there. And that starts. And remember, the bigger the list doesn't mean the bigger the profits. Know your audience, know your niche, communicate and listen to what they're saying. And don't be afraid to reach out and touch someone. I think we need that more so these days. As like we said, we're bombarded with the media. It's those that reach out and actually listening are making the difference out there in either closing the deal, closing the investors, or just building that long-term relationship for the long run. Because you never know who's listening or watching out there. It's usually not an overnight, yes, I want to opt in or spend more time with you. So go out, take some action, everybody. And we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.